English football has the most iconic stadiums on the planet, and today we're ranking every single one of them. All 92 clubs, from tiny grounds holding just 5,000 passionate fans to massive cathedrals packed with 75,000 roaring supporters every single week. You're about to discover stadiums that survived World War II bombings, a ground built in just 82 days, and billion-pound arenas that changed football forever. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never look at these stadiums the same way again. This is the definitive ranking. Let's go. Coming in at number 92, tied for the smallest stadiums in the Football League, we've got the EnviroVent Stadium, home of Harrogate Town in League 2, holding just 5,000 fans. Harrogate only joined the Football League in 2020, making them one of the newest clubs at this level. Number 91 is the H2T Group Stadium, home of Bromley, also holding just 5,000 fans. After 132 years of waiting, Bromley finally reached the Football League in 2024. At number 90, we've got the Peninsula Stadium, home of Salford City, holding 5,108. This is the Class of '92 project, owned by David Beckham and Gary Neville. They took this club from the 8th tier to the Football League in just 5 years. Number 89 is Highbury Stadium, home of Fleetwood Town in League 2, with a capacity of 5,327. It's also where Jamie Vardy once sharpened his scoring instincts before Leicester City came calling. Coming in at 88, the Wham Stadium, home of Accrington Stanley, holding 5,450. The original club folded in 1966 before being reborn decades later, a rare comeback story that's now firmly established in the Football League. At number 87, Broadfield Stadium, home of Crawley Town in League 1, holding 6,134 fans. Crawley grabbed national attention in 2011 when they reached the FA Cup 5th round as a non-league side, taking on Manchester United at Old Trafford. Number 86 is the Mazuma Stadium, home of Morecambe in League 2, with 6,476 capacity. After years of financial uncertainty, the club reached League 1 for the first time in 2021, a landmark moment in their history. At 85, Holker Street, home of Barrow in League 2, holding 6,500 fans. This stadium has been Barrow's home since 1909, and after 48 years away from the Football League, they finally returned in 2020. Number 84 is the Lamex Stadium, home of Stevenage in League 1, holding 6,722. Back in 2012, Stevenage famously held Tottenham Hotspur to a draw and forced an FA Cup replay, just 2 years after leaving non-league football. At 83, the Pirelli Stadium, home of Burton Albion, with a capacity of 6,912. Just over a decade ago, they were playing 6th tier football, before an extraordinary rise took them all the way to the championship. Number 82 is the Completely Suzuki Stadium, home of Cheltenham Town, holding 7,066 fans. The club has built a reputation for FA Cup upsets, including memorable wins over higher league opposition in recent years. At 81, Rodney Parade, home of Newport County in League 2, holding 7,850. Newport made national headlines in 2019 when they pushed Manchester City to the limit in an FA Cup tie against Pep Guardiola's side. Number 80 is Sixfield Stadium, home of Northampton Town in League 1, with a capacity of 7,798. Despite its size, Northampton regularly fill a huge percentage of the ground, making it one of the better supported clubs at this level. At number 79 is the Cladara Abbey Stadium, home of Cambridge United, holding 8,127 fans. Founded in 1912, Cambridge have built a long Football League history, including several memorable cup runs over the decades. Number 78 is St. James Park, home of Exeter City in League 1, with a capacity of 8,720. Here's a remarkable piece of history. Exeter City were Brazil's first ever opponents back in 1914, more than a century ago. At 77, the One Call Stadium, home of Mansfield Town, holding 9,186 fans. Mansfield's recent rise has reignited the club, and this ground has become one of the liveliest atmospheres in League 1 on match days. Number 76 is Blundell Park, home of Grimsby Town in League 2, holding 9,052 fans. Grimsby were once a top-flight club and reached the FA Cup semi-finals twice during their historic rise in English football. At 75, the Gone Group Stadium, home of Leyton Orient, with 9,271 capacity. Orient have one of the most heartwarming stories in football after their journey to honor former manager Justin Edinburgh. Number 74 is Montgomery Waters Meadow, home of Shrewsbury Town, holding 9,875 fans. This is where England goalkeeper Joe Hart began his professional journey before going on to represent his country at the highest level. At number 73 is Plough Lane, home of AFC Wimbledon, with a capacity of 9,215. After their club was relocated to Milton Keynes, Wimbledon supporters formed a new club, climbed the leagues, and eventually built their own stadium. One of the most powerful fan-led stories in football. Number 72 is the Elner Stadium, home of Lincoln City, with a capacity of 10,130. In 2017, Lincoln made history by becoming the first non-league side since 1914 to reach the FA Cup quarter-finals. At 71, the JobServe Community Stadium, home of Colchester United, holding 10,105 fans. Colchester etched their name into FA Cup folklore in 2006 when they famously knocked Leeds United out of the competition. At number 70, Adams Park, home of Wycombe Wanderers in League One, with a capacity of 10,137. Once a non-league side in the 1990s, Wycombe completed a remarkable rise by reaching the championship in 2020. Number 69 is the Mornflake Stadium, home of Crewe Alexandra in League Two, holding 10,153. Crewe's academy is legendary, producing more Premier League stars than clubs 10 times their size. At 68, the SMH Group Stadium, home of Chesterfield, with 10,504 capacity. In 1997, they were one game away from the FA Cup final when a clear goal was controversially disallowed against Middlesbrough. They lost the replay and the dream died. Number 67 is Edgeley Park, home of Stockport County in League One, with a capacity of 10,832. Stockport made a big splash in the League Cup that same year, knocking out teams like West Ham and Burnley on the way to the semi-final. At 66, Banks' Stadium, home of Walsall, holding 11,300 fans. A football league club since 1892 with a proud history in the Midlands. Number 65 is the Vitality Stadium, home of AFC Bournemouth in the Premier League, with 11,307 seats. From nearly dropping out of the Football League in 2008 to facing Manchester City today, this is the smallest top-flight stadium in England, a true rise from the ashes. At 64, Priestfield Stadium, home of Gillingham in League Two, holding 11,582 fans. Gillingham fans still have nightmares about the 1999 playoff final. They were 2-0 up with seconds left and somehow lost on penalties. Number 63 is Kenilworth Road, home of Luton Town in the Championship, with 12,000 capacity. This is one of the quirkiest grounds in England. Fans have to walk through terraced houses just to get to the away end. At 62, New York Stadium, home of Rotherham United in League One, with 12,000 capacity. After decades at the old Millmoor ground, Rotherham finally got a modern stadium in 2012. Also at 12,000, the Memorial Stadium, home of Bristol Rovers in League Two. Club legend Jeff Bradford scored 242 goals here, a record that might never be broken. Number 60 is the Cassim Stadium, home of Oxford United in the Championship, holding 12,500 fans. The quirky fact? This stadium has only 3 sides. The fourth stand was never built, even after 20 years. And at 59, the Racecourse Ground, home of Wrexham, with 12,600 capacity. The oldest international football stadium in the world, now packed each week thanks to Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney's ownership. At number 58, the Weston Homes Stadium, home of Peterborough United in League One, holding 15,314 fans. In their first ever Football League season, Posh scored 134 goals, a record that still stands today. Number 57 is the Keepmoat Stadium, home of Doncaster Rovers, with 15,231 capacity. Doncaster won the Football League trophy in 2007 and have been regular cup fighters over the years. At 56, County Ground, home of Swindon Town in League Two, holding 15,728. During World War II, the War Department turned the county ground into a prisoner of war camp. They put huts right on the pitch. Number 55 is Bloomfield Road, home of Blackpool in League One, with 16,220 capacity. In 2010, this place hosted Premier League football, with Charlie Adam running the show and unsettling England's biggest clubs. At 54, Prenton Park, home of Tranmere Rovers, holding 16,789. In the 1930s, Tranmere revealed ambitious plans to expand Prenton Park into a 70,000-seat stadium, but it never happened. Number 53 is Brentford Community Stadium, home of Brentford, holding 17,250. The second smallest ground in the Premier League, but that hasn't stopped Brentford from turning it into a nightmare venue for the so-called big clubs. At 52, Home Park, home of Plymouth Argyle in the Championship, with 17,900 capacity. Plymouth is the most remote football league club in England. Some away trips are over 500 miles. This ground has stood since 1901 and survived being bombed during World War II. Number 51 is Brunton Park, home of Carlisle United in League Two, with 18,202 capacity. This stadium is etched into football folklore. In 1999, goalkeeper Jimmy Glass scored in injury time to keep the club in the Football League. At 50, Loftus Road, home of Queen's Park Rangers in the Championship, holding 18,360. QPR have left Loftus Road twice for bigger stadiums. Both times, they lost money and came crawling back. Number 49 is Vale Park, home of Port Vale in League Two, with 18,947 capacity. Random fact, Robbie Williams, the pop star, is a massive Port Vale fan and nearly bought the club. And at 48, The Den, home of Millwall in the Championship, holding 20,146. In 2004, Millwall made the FA Cup final without playing a single Premier League team, beat Sunderland in the semis. That cup run got them into Europe, the only time ever. At number 47, Fratton Park, home of Portsmouth in the Championship, holding 20,688. When the Pompey chimes echo around this place, it hits different. Portsmouth won the FA Cup in 2008, and they're still packing out 97% of this ground every week. Number 46 is Swansea.com Stadium, home of Swansea City in the Championship, with 21,088 capacity. Swansea lifted the League Cup in 2013, the first Welsh club ever to win a major English trophy. At 45, Meadow Lane, home of Notts County in League Two, holding 21,388. This is where professional football began. Notts County are the oldest professional club in the world, and when Juventus needed a kit, they copied these black and white stripes. Number 44 is Vicarage Road, home of Watford in the Championship, with 21,557 capacity. Graham Taylor took Watford from the 4th Division to the 1st in 5 seasons flat. At 43, Turf Moor, home of Burnley in the Premier League, holding 21,944 fans. Sean Dyche kept Burnley punching above their weight in the Premier League for years, outworking clubs with 5 times the budget. Number 42 is Deepdale, home of Preston North End in the Championship, with 23,408 capacity. Preston were the first ever Football League champions. They won it without losing a single game, the original Invincibles, over a century before Arsenal. At 41, Oakwell, home of Barnsley in League One, holding 24,009. Barnsley clawed their way to the Premier League in 1997 with one of the smallest budgets in the division, and somehow survived. Number 40 is the Select Car Leasing Stadium, home of Reading in League One, with 24,161 capacity. Reading racked up 106 points in 2006, the highest total in English Football League history. They didn't just win the league, they demolished it. At 39, John Smith Stadium, home of Huddersfield Town in League One, holding 24,500. Huddersfield won 3 consecutive league titles in the 1920s, the first club ever to do it. Only 4 others have matched it since. And at 38, Valley Parade, home of Bradford City, with 25,136 capacity. In 1985, a fire here killed 56 people. Bradford rebuilt, and now this ground stands as a memorial to those lives lost. At number 37, the Brick Community Stadium, home of Wigan Athletic, holding 25,133. Ben Watson's stoppage time header against Manchester City in the 2013 FA Cup final. Wigan won the cup and got relegated in the same week. Only club in history to do that. Number 36 is Selhurst Park, home of Crystal Palace in the Premier League, with 25,194 capacity. It may be the smallest ground in the league, but it's easily one of the loudest. At 35, MKM Stadium, home of Hull City in the Championship, holding 25,586. Hull went from the 4th tier to the Premier League in 5 years, one of the fastest rises in English football history. Number 34 is Craven Cottage, home of Fulham, with 25,700 capacity. There's a cottage in the corner of this ground that's been standing since 1905, and the players still get changed inside it before every match. At 33, the Hawthorns, home of West Bromwich Albion in the Championship, holding 26,850. The first Football League ground, built in the 20th century, opened in September 1900, and it only took 4 months to build. Number 32 is the Valley, home of Charlton Athletic in the Championship, with 27,111 capacity. Charlton were kicked out of this stadium in 1985. The fans formed their own political party to fight for it. Then they rebuilt it with their own hands. At 31, Ashton Gate, home of Bristol City, holding 27,000. One of only 3 clubs ever to suffer 3 consecutive relegations. Went bankrupt in 1982 and had to start again from nothing. Number 30 is Carrow Road, home of Norwich City in the Championship, with 27,244 capacity. This stadium was built in just 82 days back in 1935. Club officials called it the 8th wonder of the world. At 29, the Tough Sheet Community Stadium, home of Bolton Wanderers in League One, holding 28,723. One of the only stadiums in England with 2 separate tunnels, one for each team. And at 28, St Andrews, home of Birmingham City in the Championship, holding 29,409. Tom Brady bought into this club in 2023. They broke every League One attendance record last season. Now they're building a 60,000-seat stadium. At number 27, Portman Road, home of Ipswich Town in the Premier League, holding 29,673. This ground went 31 European home games without a single defeat, a record that stood for 45 years, the longest unbeaten home run in European football history. Number 26 is the City Ground, home of Nottingham Forest, with 30,404 capacity. Forest have played here since 1898, and now they're expanding to 52,000 seats, one of the biggest stadium projects in English football. At 25, the Bet365 Stadium, home of Stoke City, holding 30,089. This club helped start it all, one of the 12 founders of the Football League, and one of the oldest in the world. Number 24 is Stadium MK, home of MK Dons in League 2, with 30,500 capacity. The stadium features a hotel built into the stands, allowing fans to watch matches from their beds. Yet average crowds hover around 7,000, leaving more than 20,000 empty seats most weeks. At 23, Ewood Park, home of Blackburn Rovers, holding 31,367. One of the first grounds in England to put a roof over the stands, this stadium helped shape how football stadiums are built today. Number 22 is Molineux, home of Wolverhampton Wanderers, with 31,750 capacity. This ground hosted the very first UEFA Cup final in 1972, one of the oldest stadiums in England and still going strong. At 21, American Express Stadium, home of Brighton in the Premier League, holding 31,876. This club nearly went out of business. They sold their old ground, had nowhere to play, and almost dropped out of the Football League. Now they're playing European football. Number 20 is King Power Stadium, home of Leicester City, with 32,261 capacity. There's a memorial garden in the corner of this stadium, built on the exact spot where the owner's helicopter crashed in 2018. At 19, St. Mary's Stadium, home of Southampton, holding 32,384. Southampton's old ground was the first stadium in England to have permanent floodlights back in 1950. They've been lighting the way ever since. And at 18, Coventry Building Society Arena, home of Coventry City in the Championship, with 32,609 capacity. Coventry spent years fighting just to play in their own city. In 2025, they finally bought the stadium outright. At number 17, Bramall Lane, home of Sheffield United in the Championship, holding 32,702. This is the oldest major stadium still hosting professional football. Football has been played here since 1862. Number 16 is Pride Park, home of Derby County, with 33,597 capacity. Queen Elizabeth II opened this stadium in 1997, the first time a reigning monarch had ever opened a football ground. At 15, Cardiff City Stadium, home of Cardiff City in the Championship, with 33,280 capacity. This modern stadium opened in 2009 and replaced the club's historic Ninian Park home. The stadium was built for just £40 million and has been expanded several times since opening. Number 14 is Riverside Stadium, home of Middlesbrough, holding 33,746 fans. Built in 32 weeks for £16 million, the first stadium built after the Taylor Report and the biggest new ground in England since World War II. At 13, Elland Road, home of Leeds United, with 37,645 capacity. Leeds is the biggest one-club city in England, 800,000 people, one team. That's why this place sells out every week. Number 12 is Hillsborough, home of Sheffield Wednesday in the Championship, holding 39,859. 97 Liverpool fans died here in 1989. After that, terraces were banned, and every top-flight stadium in England had to go all-seater. At 11, Stamford Bridge, home of Chelsea, with 40,173 capacity. Fulham were offered this stadium first. They said no, so the owners just built their own club instead and called it Chelsea. Number 10 is Villa Park, home of Aston Villa in the Premier League, holding 42,918 fans. Villa Park has hosted more FA Cup semi-finals than any other ground. The Holte End is one of the biggest stands in England. At 9, the Stadium of Light, home of Sunderland, with 49,000 capacity. Sunderland fans filled this place even when they were in League One. That's 49,000 people turning up to watch third-tier football. Number 8 is St. James's Park, home of Newcastle United in the Premier League, holding 52,258. No other stadium in England dominates a city like this. It sits on a hill. You can see it from miles away. At 7, the Hill Dickinson Stadium, Everton's brand new home at Bramley Moor Dock, with 52,888 capacity. This is the stadium that replaced Goodison Park after 133 years. State-of-the-art and already a fortress. Number 6 is the Etihad Stadium, home of Manchester City, holding 53,600 fans. Originally built for the 2002 Commonwealth Games, City moved here from Main Road in 2003. Under Pep Guardiola, this stadium has witnessed 4 consecutive Premier League titles, a feat never achieved before in English football history. At 5, the London Stadium, home of West Ham United in the Premier League, with 62,500 capacity, built for the 2012 Olympics, then converted for football. West Ham moved here from the Boleyn ground in 2016, trading history for size. Number 4 is the Emirates Stadium, home of Arsenal, holding 60,704 fans. Arsenal left Highbury in 2006 to build this, and the move nearly bankrupted them. For years, they couldn't compete with the big spenders because they were paying off the debt. Now it's one of the finest stadiums in Europe. Number 3 is the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, home of Spurs in the Premier League, holding 62,850. This ground cost over £1 billion to build, the most expensive stadium in English football history. It has a retractable pitch, an NFL field underneath, and the longest bar in the UK. At 2, Anfield, home of Liverpool in the Premier League, with 61,276 capacity. This is where "You'll Never Walk Alone" echoes before every match. Built in 1884, this ground has seen Liverpool lift 19 league titles and 6 European Cups. And at number 1, the biggest club stadium in English football, Old Trafford, home of Manchester United, with 74,310 capacity. The Theatre of Dreams. Built in 1910, this is the biggest club stadium in England. United have won 20 league titles here, and this ground has hosted everything from World Cup matches to European Cup finals. So, there you have it, all 92 English football club stadiums ranked from smallest to largest. Which stadium surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this ranking, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.